Chase me, Susie. Chase me.
Good.
وأما ما ذكره المبيحون
It's haram. You heard the words.
من أن الأصل في المعاملة.
Now he's gonna do what a normal fiqh would do. Normal person of fiqh was that they would mention their evidence why they hold something to be halal or haram, whatever, and then they would deal with the evidence of the contrary. So those who oppose them, they would deal with their evidence and give an answer to their evidence. Let's hear what they
معاملات الحل فنقول نعم الأصل في.
So the answer to the principle that the general rule of things that it is halal, the general rule of all daily activities that is halal.
معاملات الحل.
Then we say yes, we agree.
وقد وسع الله على أمة محمد.
Yes, the general rule of all daily activities that it is
صلى الله عليه وسلم في المعاملات ولم يضيق عليها.
And Allah has made it wide and spacious. All types of activities, daily activities, is open it up, made it all halal. Other than made it mostly all.
لكن يشترط في هذا أن لا يوجد ما يمنع منها شرعا. فإن وجد ما يمنع شرعا.
However, you cannot find something in it that thing cannot have within it that which makes it haram, which is part of the principle that the general rule of all things is that it is halal unless there's evidence to say that it is haram. That's the principle. The default is that it is halal unless there's evidence to say it is haram. Yeah? So I don't need evidence to say it's halal. You need evidence to say it is haram. And it is these exceptions. We just had 8 or 7 objections from the Shaykh why he feels Bitcoin is haram, or cryptocurrency is more accurate, or he says crypto as a whole is halal, haram. But he also mentioned specifically Bitcoin. So, yeah. So then all I have to do, which is what I've been doing, is to highlight how these objections are either invalid, incorrect, or based on wrong perception. So now the Shaykh will say, essentially, that those that say it's halal, they say it's halal based on this base principle, but he's given reasons.
فإنها تصبح حراما. لو خرجنا من المسجد وأسأل الله.
So if you find something that makes this thing that is normally halal by default haram,
الله لا يكون ذلك أبدا. فوجدنا رجلا عند باب المسجد ومعه قوارير خمر بعشرة.
So if we left the masjid and we found someone with alcohol, inshallah that won't happen, as Sheikh said. But if we found someone as he left the masjid, he's got a container or vessel of alcohol,
قلنا
and he's selling it, 10 riyals, combined as alcohol.
ماذا تفعل؟ قال بيع. قلنا حرام.
And he said to the brother, what are you doing? Why are you selling this alcohol? And he got
قال الأصل في المعاملات الحل. والله عز وجل يقول وأحل.
And we will say to him, you can't sell alcohol, it's haram. And then he would say, the general rule of all things, this is halal.
وأنا أبيع.
And Allah said in the Quran, and Allah's made transactions halal. General rule, everything, transactions halal. That's what this shit. That's the
عاقل يقول صحيح. لا. وجد المانع.
Anyone with a clear mind, aql, will say this is correct. I don't know what he's going to say next, but obviously we will say that he's incorrect, not because the principle he used is incorrect, but because we have evidence that alcohol is haram. That was something that came after the fact. So alcohol initially was halal in the time of Messenger of Allah, but later an ayah was revealed that made it haram. So it left from being the base rule of being halal to now being haram. So that applies with alcohol, fine. Yes, it is halal by default, but because of an ayah, now
شرعي.
Yeah.
وقد بينا موانع شرعية من الغرر.
So we found an Islamic reason to say that alcohol.
والجهالة وإضاعة المال.
And I have clarified, Shaykh, and I've clarified the things that makes it Bitcoin haram from the deception or from the obscurity, the gharad, obscurity,
في جواز هذه
obscurity, the wasting of money, unsure, jahala, which is unclear, unknown
العملات. وما ذكروه من
in regards to these currencies. And as you've seen from what he said, those objections, I mean, I've given my comments, so you can decide how you feel about his objections. If you accept his objections and you don't accept my commentary, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. You're happy to decide. You're free to take that opinion if you wish. If you think that the Sheikh's perception and how he views Bitcoin is reflective of reality, by all means, take that opinion.
أن بعض الدول اعتمدت تلك العملة كألمانيا وبعض دول أوروبا.
And the thing that they mention as well, that these countries have accepted, like Germany and whatnot, have accepted.
وبعض دول أمريكا الجنوبية. فنقول إنه لا توجد دولة أصدرت هذه العملات أو تبنت.
Then he said his answer to that is we actually don't find any countries that have issued these currencies. Now, I don't know how you feel about it, this explanation or this response, but I think there's I don't know how to say it. So our argument was no government backs it, no government issues it. But then when governments do accept it, we say, oh, but they didn't issue it. So is it just that they didn't issue it even though they actually accept it? Yeah, I don't know. So the issue is, it seems like there are these criterion that have been added on to justify something after the fact. First you say it's not from a government, but when the government does accept it, yeah, but it didn't issue it. So then, okay. Anyway, it seems obvious to me. So if it's not obvious to you, then that's fine. But yeah, so basically his argument what the Sheikh is saying here now is that, for example, Bitcoin, as he mentioned specifically, but I guess generally cryptocurrencies, if the government itself does not issue the currency, as well as issue the currency, it's still haram. Even if the government accepts it, as for taxation or the tax purposes, they accept being paid in Bitcoin or not. Even if the whole world says, yeah, we want to accept Bitcoin, the fact that it's not issued by the government is still haram. Which is, for me, a bit concerning, because essentially what he's saying is that the only way crypto can be, or Bitcoin could be halal, is if it's a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. I know the Sheikh's not saying that because I don't think CBDC was a thing, and he's not calling for CBDC, but the reality is that essentially only a CBDC is halal. I'd no doubt, I think when CBDCs do become a thing, many will say you have to use it and it is from the government and the rest of it, blah, because it's like fiat. But it is a bit concerning, knowing what we know today about how CBDCs behave, how they can stop your money, how they can freeze your accounts, how they can tax you. So all these things that they can do with your CBDC, they can surveil how you spend, see what you do, prevent you from sending or receiving and whatnot. Basically, the government now has control over your money. And this statement seems to support that function. Now, like I said, I am 100% convinced if the Sheikh knew about Bitcoin, and especially about CBDCs and how it's functional, I'm sure he wouldn't be saying this, but this is the result of what he said.
هذه العملات اقتصاديا أو ضمنت هذه العملات.
Or if this currency is built on the economy somehow.
وإنما الذي وقع.
Or they guarantee the currency. So I guess, if they guarantee it, then they allow it. So the fact that Germany allows you to pay in Bitcoin but don't guarantee it is still haram. And like I said before, what does it even mean to guarantee a currency? I mean, literally, if Germany said we guarantee a Bitcoin, what does that mean? I mean, they guarantee its value, they guarantee its price. What does guarantee mean? If you have any comments, mention comments.
أن بعض الدول اعتمدتها محاسبيا.
So what's really happening, Sheikh? So what's really happening is that they've essentially accepted crypto purely from the aspect of accounting and for taxation purposes. So they allow it for that purpose.
من أجل ضمان حق الدولة في الضرائب. لما رأت
So in order to preserve their rights in taxation, i.e. if you say that Bitcoin is nothing and is not money, and people have all the money in Bitcoin, then essentially they have no rights of taxation. So they say, okay, now we accept Bitcoin, and because it's now acceptable, you have to pay taxes on it. That's what the Sheikh is saying. Which is interesting because I think Germany is the opposite. If you hold crypto for more than a year, there's no tax on it. So it's actually the opposite. But whatever the excuse the Sheikh gives here, that's essentially why he's saying they accept it. What's ironic though is that if you look at the countries that do accept Bitcoin, like El Salvador, like Germany, they actually don't want to tax it. And the ones that resist it the most are the ones who do want to tax it. It's just a funny one. It's a funny one how it plays out in the end.
هذه الدول أن في حركة وفي أموال هائلة، قالت تركناها هكذا سيضيع حق الدولة في الضرائب، لكن إذا اعتمدت من الناحية المحاسبية.
So when the government saw that there's money going up, they thought, okay, if we don't do anything, we don't say anything, then we're going to lose our share of the profits.
سنلزم المواطن بأن يدفع ضرائب على هذه المعاملات. فهي لم تعتمد.
But if you allow it in an accountancy-based aspect, then at least we can have our share of the money. And I'm sure there's some of that. I'm sure there's some of that. There's no reason why not. I guess that opens up the question: is are taxes even halal? But that's another thing altogether.
من الناحية الاقتصادية بحيث تصدرها ولا بحيث تضمنها ولكن لتضمن.
So they never factored it as an economic thing in terms of it being
حقها.
Or in terms of it being guaranteed or having any warranty over it.
فالمواطن لو
But they only allowed it so they can take some of their share.
حصلت له أي إشكالية.
And I'm sure that must have crossed someone's mind. Regulators.
ما في ضمان. لكن يجب عليه أن يقدم إضراء.
So if any issue happens with this money, then there's no guarantee. It's up to you. It's your business. That's what they say. Which I'm sure is the case of gold. If you purchase gold and something went wrong, no one's going to say to you, yeah, we guarantee it. Or
إقرار.
This is what I'm saying. You have to be fair and just.
ضريبيا يتعلق بها. فهذا هو الذي وقع.
However, we establish some taxational rights over it so you can take
ويجب أن نفرق بين.
So that's the reason why the Sheikh says they allow not because it's actually money, but because there's some.
اعتماد العملة من أجل المصالح الحسابية وبين اعتماد العملة من جهة الإصدار أو الضمان. العبرة في الاعتبار.
So we have to separate between them accepting something in terms of, accountancy purposes or accepting it in terms of guaranteeing it. So I guess the question is, what happens about Salvador then, who have made it legal tender? I mean, making something legal tender, does that make it guaranteed? Is there a guarantee? I think there is some kind of level of guarantee from the government in the sense of the Chivo wallet. So if you send the way it works in El Salvador is that if you want to, if someone pays you in Bitcoin, the government guarantees to give you the equivalent value in dollars. So if you receive Bitcoin, you can receive the US dollar value in your wallet. So there is that element of guarantee, if that's what's meant by guarantee. And if that's the case, is Bitcoin no longer haram? Because El Salvador guaranteed it.
أن تتبناها دولة إصدارا فتسكها الدولة.
So the issue, what we need to factor in is whether they built on it as in terms of issuance.
أو ضمانا.
So they issue it and they mint it.
فتضمنها ائتمانيا وهذا غير موجود.
Or giving guarantees. Yeah.
وهذا غير موجود.
And that is not present at his time. But it did come a few years later. Because this is 4 years ago, so 2 years ago, when El Salvador made legal tender. I think it was 2 years ago. Is it 2021? I think 2021. So that has happened. And I guess you can say El Salvador even mints it. That's interesting. That's actually interesting. El Salvador actually mints Bitcoin. How? Because they build in a mining rig on a volcano. They want to make, they both said volcano Bitcoin. So the government's actually going to mine Bitcoin and mint Bitcoin. So does that mean that the El Salvadorian Bitcoin is haram, but Bitcoin from other miners is halal, but other miners is haram? I don't know. But that's something for those who accept the Sheikh's opinion. That's for them to answer. I know the Sheikh, if he understood it properly, he would change his view. I know for a fact. But for those who blindly follow his opinion, whilst knowing that his views don't reflect reality, it's for them now to say, okay, well, I know the Sheikh's views are not really accurate in reality, but I still accept it. That's up to you to figure that one out. Because I'm telling you right now, El Salvador do guarantee, in the sense that if you want to accept dollars when you receive Bitcoin, they guarantee to give you the dollar value. And number two, they issue it as well, they're mining. The government actually mines it. And there's actually another country, because of Bhutan. Bhutan as a country is just below China, above Nepal. We just found out the other day that they've been mining Bitcoin since 2017. The country Bhutan has been mining Bitcoin since 2017. That means a country has been minting Bitcoin from before this fatwa. Actually, we didn't know about it, but it became exposed recently.
أما قولهم
I'm sure others are.
إن الناس قد
Even Iran, same thing. They sanction mining Bitcoin. So if you mine Bitcoin in Iran, you register and you can mine on behalf of the government Bitcoin. So it's happening.
عارفوا على المقايضة بها وقد ذهب بعض العلماء إلى أن ما تعارف
But the people have come to agree on the exchange buying.
عرف الناس على المقايضة به يصبح نقدا قلنا إن هذا الإلحاق لا يصح. لماذا؟ لأنك لا.
So as for the opinion where they say that the second evidence they give is that if people come together and agree that X is a currency and we can buy and sell with a thing, then it becomes money because people use it. Sheikh disagrees with this analogy. He says he agrees with the principle, but disagrees with the use of Bitcoin in this way because
بعض العلماء إنما هو في النقود السلعية التي لها قيمة في ذلك.
Because that applies to products that are actual product like gold, silver, skins, whatnot. And as I said, the Sheikh sees Bitcoin as a fiat, not as a product. And as I said already, I feel that Bitcoin is more closer to being a product than a fiat.
فإذا تعارف عليها الناس تصبح نقودا.
That which has a value in of itself. I addressed that already.
ولا تحتاج إلى اعتماد الدولة. لأن
So if people do interact with it, it becomes money.
ستكتسب قوتها من إيش؟
And we don't need to depend on a government. So yeah, alhamdulillah, the Sheikh has said what I alluded to earlier on. If it's a product, we don't need to depend on the government. But because Bitcoin is not a product, it's a fiat, therefore you need a government. And because it doesn't have a government, therefore it's not money. See it? If you accept that Bitcoin has properties, like gold has properties, and due to these properties, I give it value, therefore it becomes, like you said, sila'iyya, like an asset, which is why governments across the world consider Bitcoin as an asset.
من ذاتها.
Because it gets money from
ذهب له قيمة.
from itself. Again, back to the same principle, this idea that value is in itself. Like I said, there's no value in itself. There's only properties that we value.
فإذا تعارف الناس على المقايضة به خلاص صار سلعة، صار نقدا. حتى الجلد.
So if people recognize and come to agreement of its value, then it becomes a product and becomes money. Again, if you replace the word gold, and say Bitcoin has a value, and people come to agree on value, then it becomes money. So the sheikh agrees. Point is, look carefully. Look beyond his misunderstanding of Bitcoin and look at what he's saying. He agrees that Bitcoin is money. He just doesn't know that Bitcoin is money. That's a funny thing to say. As in, if he saw Bitcoin as we see Bitcoin, he would agree that it's like gold. But because he sees Bitcoin like fiat, there you go.
لو تعارفوا على المقايضة به فلا قيمة في ذاتها، لكن يا أخوة بالعقل هل
if he will come to know and exchange it, then it has a value.
يوجد إنسان مثلا يشتري
So, you know, if you
100 جرام ذهب بقطعة جلد ما يمكن بالعقل.
Have you, now this one is a funny one, but Sheikh says, if you ever come across someone who spends 100 grams of gold for a piece of skin, so now he's saying basically the skin is not worth a piece of gold.
الشيء يقدر بقيمته.
Not possible. The thing is, it's not possible right now due to the price of skin. However, imagine that skin, it will discover that it has properties to do with healing of cancer, and that skin becomes very rare. It's very possible that it can become 100 grams of gold. There is no real price of anything. It's to do with our perception of its properties.
فالجلد نشوف كم قيمته في
Something you quantify things by its value.
خلاص يساوي فلس، فيشترى به ما
How much is
يساوي فلس.
Is it fils? If it's a fils, it's a small currency, then it's a fils.
فهذه أعني
Then you buy with it that which is equivalent to fils. So you're saying that skins, the equivalent value of skin is about a fils. Therefore, with this skin, I can buy things that are the value of a fils. Yeah. How do you know that? Because of the collective understanding of its value. It has properties, and it has a scarcity, which is part of its properties, and we give it its value. Likewise.
كلام العلماء في النقود السلعية، وهذه ليست من النقود السلعية بل لا قيمة.
So that's the statement of the scholars is relevant to money that is a product or commodity-based money. It's because the Sheikh doesn't believe Bitcoin is that. And I'm repeating myself, you know, I'll repeat that. Yeah.
قيمة لها في ذاتها فلا يصح هذا الإلحاق. وفي الختام.
And because Bitcoin or crypto is not a product, therefore it has no value in of itself, therefore it's not part of this. So back to the point, based on the perception of value, where value comes from, which is not a fiqh discussion is something separate. Because of his ideology or information, he has his understanding. If that changes, I'm sure it will at one point, then his fatwa will change.
عند كلامي عن هذه العملة أذكر كل مؤمن.
In conclusion,
يتردد في التعامل به.
I remind in conclusion of this conversation, I remind
نحن بينا ونحن لا نملك إلا البيان وبينا.
So who hesitates in interacting with Bitcoin or crypto?
من قال بالجواز ووجه قوله.
Then we made it clear, and we have nothing to do other than make it clear to the people. And likewise, I say, with Sheikh's clarification, I've also hopefully made it clear that his clarification isn't as clear as he perceives it to be. Nothing to do with his fiqh, nothing to do with his understanding of the deen, nothing to do with his knowledge of the deen, nothing to do with his knowledge in experience, nothing to do with that. Nothing. It's purely because Bitcoin is so new and so unique in its knowledge that it's obviously going to take a while for people to actually get it and understand it properly. And unless the Sheikh is motivated to do so, which I'm sure that the Sheikh is not really He's not really interested to go and start studying Bitcoin and reading the Bitcoin standard by Shaykhuddin and the rest of it. He's not going to spend his time that much. He's going to do surface knowledge, surface research, or even deep research. But it could be deep research taking reference point from economists like Rubini or from Peter Schiff. If those are his sources of knowledge, conventional economists, then there's no doubt why he will have certain.
والجواب عن قوله ومن قال بالتحريم.
We clarified those who say it's halal and the angle.
وأوجه التحريم.
And we've answered the evidences.
وفق قواعد الشريعة.
And we mentioned that the opinion of those who say.
وأنا مطمئن القلب.
And there are many angles of prohibition. In agreement with the principle of the Sharia, and he is 100% correct. Listen carefully, everyone. This is the whole point of this video. The Sheikh said right here is correct. He literally took the two opinions and applied the rules of the Sharia and found that the second opinion is the strongest opinion. And he is correct. If his perception of the Bitcoin was correct. But
الشريعة تأبى
and I'm
التعامل بهذه العملات.
Confident.
ومع ذلك فإني أقول للمؤمن
that the principle of the Sharia refuse interacting with these currencies. If the currencies actually exist, how he
يتردد في هذا تذكر قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم دع ما يريبك إلى ما لا يريبك.
A reminder in the statement message of Allah.
دع ما يريبك إلى ما لا.
Leave what is doubtful for that which is not doubtful. Yep, I agree. If you have no idea what Bitcoin is, leave it, stick to fiat. If you don't know, stick to fiat. But if you do know what Bitcoin is, and you know exactly what fiat is, and the riba that is in fiat, then
يريبك. وقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الحلال بين.
So that advice is sound.
والحرام بين. وبينهما.
And the statement of Mr. Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says the halal
مشبهات لا يعلمها كثير من الناس فمن اتقى الشبهات فقد استبرأ لدينه.
And between the halal that is clear and the haram that is clear, there are things that are unclear that most people don't know about it. Now this is important to understand. When you say halal is clear and the haram is clear to who? Now there are many people out there who Bitcoin is unclear to them. So this hadith will apply. No doubt. But there are many out there who Bitcoin is very clear to them. So we can't use this hadith for those who Bitcoin is clear to them. It only applies to those who are unsure. And that's and that is, if you watch my videos, I always say to people, if you don't know anything about Bitcoin, the first thing you must do is educate until you know. Don't just dive into something because you don't know what it is. Educate, because I don't want people to do something because I said so. I haven't given you a special tip. I've just told you how Bitcoin works, and it's up to you to make your own educated decision based on education.
وعرضه ومن وقع في الشبهات كراع يرعى.
So whoever abstains from the doubtful things, and they have protected their deen and
حول الحمى يوشك أن يواقعاه.
Whoever falls into the doubtful things is like a sheep herder who herds his sheep around the boundaries of the king.
كما أذكره
is just about this camels or sheep are just about to almost fall into the forbidden boundaries.
بقول ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما إني لأجعل بيني وبين الحرام سترة من الحلال ولا أخرقها. ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما
I place between me and haram a barrier of halal that I don't go beyond that. So basically, if haram is there and I'm here, I place between the haram a halal deed that I don't go beyond that halal deed or I don't break that.
يقول الحرام بين فاجعل بينك وبين الحرام
So Ibn Umar said that the haram is clear.
حائط ليس من الحرام إنما حائط في جانب الحلال.
So put between you and the haram a barrier.
والحلال كثير الحمد لله.
Not from the haram.
لكن يجعل لك سترة.
But the barrier is the halal. You put the halal between you and the haram.
لا تخرقها لأن من خرق الستر.
And the halal is a lot, alhamdulillah. The question I would say then, is the fiat, the riba fiat that's issued through central banks, that's issued through riba loans, that transacts using riba credit and contracts, is that the halal we're supposed to put between us and Bitcoin?
أوشك أن يقع في الحرام. فأقل.
So when you put this halal between you and the haram, don't go beyond that, because if you break that cloth, you almost...
ما يمكن أن يقال في هذه القضية دع ما يريبك إلى ما لا يريبك بأمر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم مع أن الأمر ليس.
And the bare minimum that can be said about this is to stay away from that which is unsure for that which is sure. Yes, if it's unsure to you, stay away from it. But if you're 100% sure...
عندنا ريبة، الأمر عندنا حرام بين، ومع ذلك أقول لو شككت فلا يغرنك شيء.
And the affair for him, he says, the affair for him is that this is not even unclearly haram, this is clearly haram.
شيطان.
Sheikh said,
دع ما يريبك إلى ما لا يريبك.
And if he said, if you have doubt, don't...
أسأل الله عز وجل أن يوفق أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى الحلال.
Leave that which is doubtful for that which is not doubtful.
وأن يغنيها بحلاله عن حرامه.
And we ask Allah to give us the tawfiq to go towards the halal. And I say Ameen. I ask Allah to allow the Muslims to go towards the halal, stay away from the haram, and to find avenues, a way to exit the riba and the riba system, to exit the credit-based system, the banking-based system, to find means of transacting outside of the control of central banks and banks whose only intent in life is to make profit through money.
وأن يكفينا شر المحدثات المحرمة.
And to suffice us with the halal over the haram. Ameen.
وأن يعيننا جميعا على لزوم.
And to suffice us away from that which is newly invented unlawful things.
ما يحبه الله عز وجل ويرضاه.
And to aid us to stick to what which Allah has loves and is pleased with and suffices us. Alhamdulillah. That's it. That's the end of the extended version. Sheikh made a shorter version before this, but then he made a longer one like this. So hopefully you've all learned from this long video. But to be fair, I wanted to demonstrate here how perception has a major impact on the person's fiqh. And it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with their fiqh. It just means there's something wrong with their perception. So we can still have respect the ulama, respect the scholars, ask Allah to bless them, to forgive them of their shortcomings, like Allah ask Allah to forgive us of our shortcomings. And we understand we can see clearly from the Sheikh's principles here that if he had the correct perception of Bitcoin and of economics and of money, he would say what we say. Because he actually said the words. He actually said, if it was like this, then it's halal. And we know that's how it is. So we know that the Sheikh would agree with us if he had the correct perception. But unfortunately, he's been informed or misinformed about Bitcoin. But there's a flip side of this. Let's have a look.